Okay, so let's go back to World War II. We come out of World War II, and two things happened that created the framework for the governmental part of the financial system, the global financial system. So between World War I and World War II, we had a duopoly between the pound sterling and the dollar. And then at the end of the World War II, we institute the Bretton Woods system, and the dollar becomes the reserve currency. And that is a public-private partnership. You can see how it operates when you look at how the Treasury and the central bank, the Federal Reserve, operate. The critical framework got put into place with two acts, the 47 Act and the 49 Act. And of course, the Dulles brothers were critical engineers of those two acts. The 47 Act was the National Security Act, and that allowed the creation of a black budget. But that needed something else, and there was a huge fight that ended up getting Forrestal assassinated, and literally people died in that fight. And that was the 49 Act that created the CIA. And the combination of the secret budgets and the creation of a covert operator literally created in the CIA the most powerful bank in the world. I mean, clearly not as powerful as the central banks, but it gave an operational arm to the central bankers that could literally, with the power of the reserve currency, had an infinite budget for infinite secret projects, and you could keep them all secret under the law. And that allowed, if you go throughout, the period of the next 10 years, they put into place the infrastructure for the secret national security state and a part of the covert economy. And here's what you need to know. If I can operate above the law and not pay taxes, then I'm going to grow faster than everybody else.
Exactly.
Okay? And what we've seen since then is that black side of the economy, it's Ian Davis calls it the smart state or the dark state. You have that growing at faster and faster compound rates, but staying secret. And, I always tell people that at one point during what I call the financial coup, I said that they had broken away, and some of us call them the breakaway civilization. And then I said the pandemics is when they broke back in, because now they're so big, they just come on in and just take control with all the money they've stolen from the overt economy.
Of course. Yeah, I mean, that is really important for people to understand, because we also, it appears to me in that same period of time, again, the Dulles brothers, and of course, John Foster Dulles went into the State Department, and at the same time, he's all in at the Council of Foreign Relations. But to me, when I look at that too, I have come to the conclusion that I don't think the CIA was created to protect the United States of America. I think the CIA was created to protect what you're talking about, the infrastructure above the supranational financial system.
So it was both. So it was meant to basically, what you're trying to do is give people paper that you create out of thin air in exchange for labor and commodities around the world. And that requires an enforcement arm. It's called the central banking warfare model, because the central bankers create the paper, and then the military and intelligence make sure everybody takes it. Do you know they enforce the deal? And so you're managing and enforcing the model, and at the same time that you're implementing the covert side, which benefits, no doubt benefits the, in this case, the multinational corporations and the investment interests. So behind the central bankers, you have the people that control the equity. And those people care about how the resources and labor get allocated.
I mean, it goes into technocracy at that point too, because they want to not only care, but they want to control how it's operating without us seeing it. Most people in America know something's terribly wrong. They just don't know that this architecture above our nation was created to essentially deceive the people from where our money was going at all. And I think people look at the stock market or something else, and they don't really take the next step to where is all this money at this point. And I think that what is going on right now in our situation in America and geopolitically is that system is failing. And yet we are still talking about walking towards World War III. And then that takes me to the next thing, which is during that same period of time was the Marshall Plan and the creation of the EU and the creation of the euro later and all of this. But that was really, I think, American taxpayer money was funding a lot of this stuff that was building what we see now as the global public-private partnership right in front of our eyes without us realizing it.
Right. So what you're looking at is you're talking about using new technology to slowly and steadily centralize control of the economy and of the narrative. Part of this is you've
Yes.
got an official reality and you've got reality, and they want to control official reality and get you to ignore reality and see official. But they're trying to steadily consolidate political and economic control upwards, and that's continued. And we're coming into the end game now where they are using digital technology to literally try and replace legislatures and executive branch governments so that the bankers can control fiscal policy. So in 1913, when we created the Federal Reserve, the bankers took control of monetary policy. Treasury could issue the currency. You don't need a central bank to control monetary policy, but we did that. And now with digital technology, and they think with programmable money, they can literally, the bankers can control the fiscal policy too, including taxation without representation. So we're
Sadly.
back to the Boston Tea Party, and I think it's really hard for many folks to fathom that anybody would want to do this, but they do, and it's very interesting. I just watched a great interview that Ed Dowd did at the end of the year, and he's
Yeah.
talking about the stock market, and he said, you know, the 7 stocks now carry, 39% of the market cap. It's very concentrated, and they're all the AI stocks. And when you look through what they're doing, they're just basically building our digital prison. So
Exactly.
why are we financing our digital prison? We should ask that, and we should say, what does it say about the U.S. economy that the growth in the stock market is coming from building a prison for us?
Yes, exactly. And
Right.
I think people are so exhausted because, like you said, they're a big part of what we dealt with since the pandemic, as I call it, is constant uh, barrages of big story breaks, and everyone jumps on it, and nobody's looking at things. And when you look back through time, a lot of time when there's something shiny that people are pushing at, that's when the real infrastructure is being built. I look back to even Monica Lewinsky scandal. Well, there was a lot going on that wasn't being paid attention to. And I feel kind of that
Yeah,
way.
they got Glass-Steagall rolled back.
Right,
That's big.
exactly.
Right.
Exactly. So
Right.
whenever I see, because you and I and most people have known about the Epstein case for years and years. But in the last 3 months, now it's like everyone, it's all this attention on that while they are building this literal, like you said, digital prison and going at warp speed, to use a term of the Trump first term.
Right.
And I just think people are walking into it eyes wide open with every step of the way, because now TSA is now going to be taking DNA, apparently. And that's because of the, the open border. But that was always kind of the plan. So a lot of these things are being implemented without people paying attention because they're all into the shiny object while they're taking their eye scans at TSA and they're doing all this. And a lot of this is unconstitutional. And I keep asking, why isn't anyone saying, where is the Constitution
So
in this
I'm
space?
seeing tremendous pushback. So we need to talk about that. But I just want to tell you the funniest tweet I've seen so far since Maduro was kidnapped and brought back to the United States. So Hoodie wrote, if you can kidnap Maduro and his wife, why can't you arrest one person under Epstein, Clinton corruption,
Exactly.
Biden corruption? And he goes on to lit COVID. Can we go snatch Albert Bourla?
Yeah. And why is that? Because it is really striking. Is there immunity that we don't know about, or is it that people don't want to investigate other people because they don't want to be exposed? I mean, it is at a point where, honestly, since the murder of JFK, I don't think anyone in our government, including in that situation, has ever been held accountable for real, not the real players. Is there a possibility that
So it's
anyone
hard to
could be?
prosecute. It's hard to prosecute somebody if they're doing their job.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah,
Okay.
like Eichmann was doing his job.
Well, it's like the financial crisis. So 29 trillion of bailouts. That's not a bailout, that's a bank robbery. And
Yeah.
and you don't prosecute the people who helped you get $29 trillion, right? Because
Yeah.
then they won't help you the next time.
No, let's talk about that, because what happened in Venezuela, I think people don't know the history down there and what is going on. But then, of course, because I watched JP Morgan, I cannot believe the things that they've gotten away with over the years, especially in 2008. But then right away, you see that the Department of Defense has gone into some kind of deal with JP Morgan for the silver
For the
in
smelter.
Venezuela. And it happened at the same time.
I thought they were doing a smelter in Tennessee.
Well, what it looks like is that they are that there is some kind of deal because they have the biggest silver reserves, or to some extent, and gold in Venezuela, and that J.P. Morgan is going to be running that project with the Department of Defense, removing that silver and smelting it. That's what I took it
So I
as.
know they're